Indeed, dear listeners, we jump into our morning reflection today. I am talking about just things that every person in a relationship should understand. Basically, I'm saying that five things every couple must know. Five things every couple must know or must be able to understand. You know, at times knowledge births understanding. So it's good that once we know this, we can be able to understand, because these five things many a times become the obstacles that we encounter in our relationships, and they frustrate our relationships as we move forward. Remember that no one gets into a relationship with the sole purpose of making it not work. You know, unless someone is very sick in the head, it's when they decide they enter a relationship for it not to work. People enter assuming that the way they want it to work is how it will work. No matter how flimsy or simple the relationship is, at the end of the day, there's a desire you have, and that's the desire you want to be able to attain. And many a times, dear listener, it's not to self-sabotage. That is not the desire why people get into relationships. So very, very quickly, I'm going to jump into these five things that every couple should know and understand to be able to help us, dear listener, to navigate at times the things that create roadblocks. Again, I go back to the beginning. I say that because when you're working with someone, the thing that you have to anticipate is roadblocks. You know, if you're traveling, one thing you have to on the road is where are the roadblocks. You know, roadblocks will always be able to help you know what are the rules of engagement when I meet this roadblock. The things I'll mention, dear listener, are where many of us hit roadblocks and we end up having conflict that is unmanageable yet could have been contained if we are able to navigate these particular things. Number one, dear listener, most important thing, dear listener, is the lack of understanding of our spiritual connection and what God says about marriage. The lack of understanding of our spiritual connection and what God says about marriage. You know, to be very realistic, one thing that couples as well now tend to ignore is, one, the role that their spirituality plays in the relationship, and two, what does God say about marriage? What does God say about it? Because at times I've had people in my office who create their own theories as to what God said or as to what God wanted, you know. First of all, that understanding. For example, if you're going through very crude physical abuse, you cannot sit and say that this is what God said marriage is supposed to be. That's not what God said it's supposed to be, you know. But again, we look at some other things. For example, you know, what does the Bible say about forgiveness? What is my role in forgiving my partner on a daily basis? I've always said that marriage is an institution of two perpetual forgivers. So it's important to note that, one, how am I connected spiritually, and how is my partner connected spiritually? Because as in Guinea, we wake up one morning and we are so spiritual. Last week you are the drunkard of all drunkards. This week you have changed and you are so spiritual. And this also, dear listener, throws off your partner, because you never had a conversation and an understanding about what is their spiritual connection. Because one thing is a fact, that religion is in the top 5 reasons why marriages break worldwide. How is it that religion is one of the reasons why marriages break? Yet at the end of the day, we believe that what God has put together, let no man put asunder. But religion in itself can push us different ways. Is because, one, the couple don't have a knowledge and understanding about what God has said about marriage. Number two, the couple don't have a knowledge and understanding of their own spirituality and also their partner's spirituality. They have assumed that these things work themselves out, and that is a problem. But you find that I had a couple in my office where the man believes that the marriage has to be prayed for to work, and the lady believes that the marriage does not need prayer, it needs work. Why are they conflicting about this? Is because one person or both of them don't understand their spiritual connections, don't understand their partner's spiritual how their partners are spiritually connected, and lastly, none of them know, both of them don't agree on what God says about marriage. Do you and your partner agree about what God said about marriage? Do you agree with your partner what God has said about marriage? Number two, communication styles. This is one of my favorite ones. Whenever I give seminars, I like this one. Because of how we are different and how God made us to be different, we must understand that we are very, very, very different in how we approach communication. And how I want to be communicated to is very different from how my wife would like to be communicated to. We never take time to invest and learn what is the best communication style for my partner. Now, this is the one area, dear listener, in relationships where people are generally lazy. I'll repeat, it's an area where people are generally lazy. We don't want to come out of our space to understand how do I communicate to the other person in a way that they'll feel respected, they will feel valued, they'll feel appreciated, and most importantly, my point will go across. Every so often, we communicate from a selfish point of view because we believe, and I've always said this, that the mistake that you can ever make in a relationship is to assume you're the world's best communicator. My dear friend, you are not. And that's the mistake we all make. We think we know how to communicate. I've had couples in my office where people are fighting. Why? It's because of the language used or the tone used. You must understand that fundamentally, a man and a woman are different. And how men will process things are very different. How women communicate things are very different. Because men will approach things thinking to thinking, women will approach things heart to heart. And with that very difference from our very core, again, there's something else. Our birth placement plays a very huge role in how we are communicated to and our communication styles. Previous experiences and pains and hurts, what are our trigger points when it comes to communication? What is Victor saying? I'm saying in brief, dear listener, that we have to stop being lazy, and we have to push and ask ourselves, how does my partner want to be communicated from me that they feel loved, valued, appreciated, but I still get my point across? How can I complain and my partner doesn't feel put down, ridiculed, frowned upon? How do I speak my idea without making my partner feel as though they are stupid, they have nothing in their head? Our communication styles, dear listener, I must understand how I'd like to be communicated to. And I take time to teach my partner on that. And my partner has to be ready to learn how do I want to be communicated to, and vice versa. Communication styles are the biggest obstacle, because a couple can have a very bad conflict because someone said, pass me sugar. Nasema uliniambia unipitishe sukari, ulisema na madharau sana. Na uko na madharau mingi. And the marriage is built on what? Kuna mmoja kuna madharau. And someone just asking for sugar. Communication styles, dear listener. If you look at your relationship, you will find it there. Number 3, one of my best. The differences. Differences in men and women. I have a whole reflection on this. And whenever I begin my seminars on marriage, I begin by teaching about the law of difference. That we are different. And unless in a marriage, in a relationship, you appreciate that you are different, that a father and a son are different, first of all, yes. But again, that a husband and a wife are different, that men and women are different. And we stop trying to make men to function like how women function, and stop trying to make women to function as men function. We stop trying to make mothers to behave like fathers, and we stop trying to make fathers to behave like mothers. My dear friends, this is where you confuse everything. You cannot be both. You cannot be both. Even though you say that you are a tomboy, you are still fundamentally to the core, you are not a man. You might have mannerisms, yes, but that doesn't mean that the way you are wired, your functioning is that way. That does not work that way. Because with the way God designed us, if I can understand that how my wife will approach something as a woman is different from how I'll approach it as a man, my dear friends, we are actually reducing conflict by half. Because men look at the world differently, women look at the world differently. At a road accident, the way a man will translate and how a man translates are very different. Number 2, we process information differently. How a man processes information is different from how a woman processes information. We expect different things in relationships. What a man expects from his wife is different from what a wife expects from a husband. It is different. What a man looks for in sex, what a woman looks for in sex are different things. What a man looks for in money, what a woman looks for in money are different things. What is Victor saying? We make a big mistake when we try to equalize everything when it comes to men and women. This has nothing to do with equality, my dear friends. Because someone can be saying, no, it's not about equality. It's about difference. It doesn't mean that any of the two is greater than the other. Haimaanishi because women see things differently from men, that women are more superior. No. Or men are more superior. No. It just means that we are different. And if you can appreciate difference, dear listener, it would be easier even to perpetuate equality within the marriage in an equal surface. Because God designed us in a different way. Haki, if you don't understand difference, I always begin from there in my marriage classes. Get difference, you'll get the rest. The next one, dear listener, this is 4. Number 4, we must be able to understand outside influences. Before you get married, you must understand who is within. Who can be an external influence in my marriage? Do I know them? Do I understand them? Number 1, the friends. Do I know them? Do I understand them? And the role they play and where they've come from with my partner. Because the history they share will be the enemy of our relationship. So I must understand the outside influence based on history. What history does my partner have with his or her friends? Number 2, of course, we'll never forget about in-laws. They'll always play a part. Number 3, dear listener, is our own life targets, our own life objectives. That's an outside influence. Number 4, it depends on who you're married to, the devil. Be an outside influence. That's something you must also look at. And most importantly, children. Children. Our beloved children, dear listener. At times in a marriage, children can be the biggest reason why a marriage will break. I've said it again. One time I'll sit here in the studio and I'll record to you, based on research, universal research, about, dear listener, the 5 things, dear listener, that actually the top 7 things that break marriages worldwide. And you'll be shocked that children are in that list. So children, dear listener, are an external influence, and we have to know how to deal with children. And lastly, dear listener, my next point is this. You must understand, an obstacle you must see, dear listener, is this: the different goals and objectives you have. Are you and your partner pushing the same way? Couples fight because one person wants to build a house here, another wants to build a house there. You must know, are we heading the same place? Tukanawe kwa hii safari. Are you going where I'm going? Do you believe what I believe? Do you have the same ambition as I have, or we are different? And you must, to know this, you must know, 1, how does your partner look at your life? Some people are more positive than others. Others are negative. Ukamwambia unataka kufunga biashara, anasema biashara zinaangukanga, economy ni mbaya, tujenge hapa kuna wezi, we buy a car, cars are expensive. Is your partner negative or positive? You know, you must know, so your family background play a very huge role. And also, dear listener, very importantly, you must understand your personalities and how they function. This will help you understand why do we differ in goals and objectives. That's why you find a couple working together and they're working, doing things together, and another couple, imefika mahali people work with their salaries, ni kama they're not together. And lastly, dear listener, number 5, dear listener, is this: parenting objectives. Parenting objectives. Here nasema number 5/6 because it connects with objectives, but I like putting it as a different thing. Is, do we agree on parenting? Many couples don't agree on parenting, and many couples fight on parenting. I've said, if I were to list for you the top 7 reasons why marriages break worldwide, dear listener, children fall in there. Why do children fall in there? Because we don't understand or don't agree on parenting. Very often, many parents have never agreed on how they will parent. And that is a fact, dear listener. And that is an obstacle. This will be available on my Facebook page, Victor Salamba, during the course of the day, dear listener. Do have a wonderful morning.